Well, hey, welcome to 2717. It's Merritt Vaughn again. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're coming back for round two or round three, whatever that happens to be, welcome back. Listen, we are iron sharpening iron as one man and one woman strengthens another. We want to help people. That's the reason we're doing this. So if you can give us a like, awesome. Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're finding us right now. If you share this, because maybe there's somebody you know that might benefit from whatever we're talking about, that's even better. But we're doing this for one reason, to help people. So welcome back. I want to welcome my buddy Talon Duncan. He is our podcast producer.
Yep.
Today, you're part of the personality, man.
Let's go.
So welcome.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
glad to have you,
Yeah,
brother.
this is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So our topic today is the power of a decision, and a lot to talk about, and I'm looking forward to unpacking this with you. So I'm gonna throw the ball your direction, and I'm gonna let you kind of take us from here, Talon.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, just like Mr. Merritt said, we're going to be going through unpacking a decision, and there's a lot of great stuff on here, stuff that I didn't really get the opportunity to talk to a mentor about.
Sure.
Uh, just from the fact, my parents were split up, that whole thing, and so I didn't get the kind of mentorship that I had hoped. Now, luckily, through some of just how God works, I had some men in my life who helped guide me along. But I'm really looking forward to hearing, what you have to say about your decision-making process and the notes that you've got here. And
Sure.
how you've unpacked that whole thing.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Let's do it. Let's
yeah.
jump in. So let's just jump into this number one right here. What is a decision?
Well, maybe there's a lot of ways to define a decision, but I think a decision is it's a conclusion or an outcome of a thought process. I think a decision starts with a question, right? And maybe an example could be, I want to lose some weight. How can I lose weight? How can I become more fit? That could lead to certain decisions, conclusions, or I want my marriage to be more passionate, and I want us to be closer. So, what are some, what would be based on that question of how can my marriage be more intimate and we could be closer? What are some decisions I can make as a result of that? So, Talon, I think that whether we know it or not, a decision comes from a question. Now, I will say this, and I think this is really important as we kick this off. The better the question, the healthier the question, the better opportunity for a good decision. Sometimes we question out of a pain, a past hurt, a perceived situation that may not be real because of past pains and past hurts that we haven't processed correctly. So I will say that as we're forming questions, the people that I mentor with, my mentors, one of the main things that we do is unpack the why, unpack the question, so why do you, like I might come to a mentor and say, hey, I've got an opportunity to buy another business, okay? And I'm thinking, let's talk about the decisions I need to make to move forward to make this a good process, make a good deal, get all my resources in line, do all that. So what does that look like? And they may take it a step further back and say, okay, why do you think you need to buy the business? Where's Pam at on the deal?
Yeah.
Are you sure this is really what God's calling you to do? So a good mentor can help you take some steps backwards.
Yeah.
So that as you unpack that, you're, because we all run with blind spots.
Right. I almost got like a picture of like a topographic view that mentors helping you get out of the driver's seat and say, all right, let's assess how everything else is looking around it.
Yeah.
Before you make some type of decision that you haven't, because if you if we're going like with a car analogy, if you say like, oh, I'm thinking I should turn left over here, but if you take a topographic view and see that that's a dead end over there, a good mentor would help you point that out before you make that turn and end up
Yeah.
dead end middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and can they reframe the question so that maybe the decision that you're making isn't even the decision that you came to them with. In other words, you're thinking, I need you to help me down this path. And to your point, they're going, well, do you even need to go down that path?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because we can get into a lot of different things, but ultimately right now in my life, I do my best to say, is this leading me toward the man that God has called me to be? So when I reach the end of my life, which none of us know when that's going to be,
Right.
but I believe, right, my expectation, it's down the road a little bit. I'm
Right.
55. I seem to be in relatively good health. I think I'm actually in very good health. I think it's down the road.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't happen unforeseen, then 20, 30, 40 years down the road, whatever that looks like, when I reach that proverbial end of the road for this life, have I accomplished the things that God's called me to accomplish? And if I don't have a mentor or somebody to help me down that path, I've got a coach, I've got a professional coach, I have a professional counselor, and I have mentors. So I have two people that I pay to try to help keep me on track.
That you're investing into.
That I'm in
Yeah.
big time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would suggest to anybody listening to this, if you want to accelerate your growth and you want to get further down the road faster, if you want to condense a decade into a couple of years, you can't do it without a coach.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wonderful mentors out there, but if you get a high quality coach, that's going to cost a fair amount of money. They're going to help you down the road faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you kind of alluded to this too. It's like you have to kind of come back to the value structure in making a decision too. As a mentor or a coach, does
Yep.
this align with the values that you're trying to live out for the next foreseeable future?
Yeah.
Whatever that may be.
Yeah, I took a quick look down at my notes. One of the things too that I don't want to make sure I don't miss. See if this resonates with you, Talon.
Okay.
I get an idea in my head. Remember, a decision starts with a question.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the question is, I see an opportunity in the marketplace. I see something that maybe can be done that could be a good business model, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that, a market, a service, there's something in the marketplace I'm seeing, there's a gap. That's what entrepreneurs do. They say, hey, look, people are wanting this or needing this. It's not currently being provided, or maybe it's not being provided in the way that I see that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I fill that gap? And then the public says, wow, I like that. I'll be willing to pay you for it, right? That's all entrepreneurship is.
Right, yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
But so often we keep it up here,
Mm-hmm.
the idea's spinning, right? And then all of a sudden you go, that's my idea. They're doing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So one of the practical things that and this is where you need help. If it weren't for my coach, I wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Mm.
She would not leave me alone. And she kept pushing me, and I know I'm busy, I got lots of stuff going on, and I just don't think I would have gotten around to this, not because I don't want to do it, not because I don't want to help people, I had other things going on.
Right. Right.
And so it's real important that we have people that help us, because most of us need a little bit of help to get the idea and the question out of our head and actually moving and in action and moving toward whatever that question, whatever that decision is leading us to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of a callback to the last episode, the little short that you had done, our short cast, as we kind of called it.
Yeah.
you were distinguishing the difference between godly fear and ungodly fear.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times, I know for me in particular, something that has kept me from making a decision is fear.
Yeah.
You know, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
What kind of outcome is going to happen?
Yeah.
What kind of financial position is this going to put me
Yeah.
in? And there's been a few times in the past that I look back and be like, okay, that by the grace of God, I didn't go down that road. And then a couple of times where I'm like, man, I could have. I could have made a profit.
Yeah.
I could have done that. So whenever it comes to this decision making, does I don't like the term regret,
Yep.
but have there been any moments for you in particular to where it's like, man, I missed an opportunity?
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. What 3 years ago, I had a business I was buying, and I mean I teach this stuff, and there were some things that started popping up, and I got worried about it, and I backed out of it, and I shouldn't have backed out of it. So these things happen, and it's not the end of the world, but going back to the fear question. What I have seen in people's life, and this is simplifying things quite a bit. Now, again, we're not talking about looking both ways before you cross the road, right?
Right,
That's a
right.
healthy fear. But fear boils down into two main components. The overriding fear, initial fear that most of us have is, what if I'm not enough? In other words, what if I fail? What if I can't make this work? What if it financially wrecks my family? And all of these boil into the bucket of, what if I'm not enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then what that then jumps into is the second ultimate fear, which is, well, if I'm not enough, then I won't be loved. And and that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
That, man, because I love my family. I love my wife. I love my friend that I'm a business partner with, and I don't want to let any of these people down. What if I'm not enough? And then what if I'm not enough, will I still be loved?
Yeah.
And so fear's a real deal. We have to all battle with it. And I'd like to say we can always overcome fear, but what I will say, most of the people I know allow fear to hold them back. I know a couple of people that are they seem almost fearless to me. I don't understand that because I deal with fear at a certain level. But the thing I know now, after whatever it is, 30 years of being in business, with God's grace, you can survive almost anything. You can get through it.
Yeah.
There's an old saying, it's never a lack of resources. It's just a lack of resourcefulness.
Wow.
In other words,
Wow.
one of the most common misconceptions in the business world is, if I had the money, I'd do it.
Yeah.
The reality is, there is limitless amounts of money in the world, limitless.
Yeah.
If you got a good enough idea, I mean, if you've never heard the story of Walt Disney, or the Colonel, whatever his name was, with Kentucky Fried Chicken, or countless other people that, Steve Jobs, I mean, all these people that just started with nothing and just were so stinking persistent, they just kept on and on and on,
Yeah.
that finally they got their breakthrough and they made it happen.
Yeah.
The difference between those type of people and most of us is, man, they just had a big idea and a big dream, and they just kept pursuing it. And eventually somebody will resource that dream.
Yeah.
So it's, I had a life group years ago, a Bible study that was at my office. It was fairly early on in business, and we were really in a tight spot. I mean, business was not good. We were losing a lot of money, and it was beginning to cause a lot of stress at home. And payday was coming up, and payday was a scary time because I was always, fearful I wasn't going to have enough money to pay my people. and it was a real deal. Like,
Yeah.
can we make payroll? I mean, it was a real scary situation. And I had this buddy of mine who was very successful in business, and he was at my Bible study, and I said, hey, can I talk to you after the Bible study? And he said, oh yeah, sure, yeah. And so I gave him a real short version of what's going on. I poured my heart out to him. And
Yeah.
I expect him to like give me a hug, pray with me,
Yeah.
hey man, it's gonna be okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He literally pats me on the back, he goes, dude, you'll be okay, and he walks out the door. I wanted to go kill the guy. I wanted
Yeah.
to strangle him right
Oh
there
my
and go,
goodness.
you have no idea. I mean, I can't even sleep at night. I mean,
Yeah.
you're flippant about this deal. And guess
Right.
what? It's okay.
Yeah. You made
Yeah.
it through.
He's been through that enough times, and it's the longer you walk with God, the more times you see God show up, His faithfulness. And I'm not suggesting being reckless or doing something
Right.
that you shouldn't do, but God is faithful. You continue to do the next right thing. You're faithful. You continue to make great decisions, and 55 going on 56. He hadn't let me down yet, and
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to. Yeah.
And 19 businesses later too.
19 businesses later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's a testimony in and of itself.
it's all him. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, because I didn't set out to have 19. Never dreamed I've had 19.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't even know how I quite got to 19. But we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going.
Yeah.
So
People love a good come up story of going from one business, just like the story you told, not sure how we're going to make payroll, to
Yeah.
now look at what perseverance has led us to, what faithfulness has led us to, what standing on foundation of the gospel has led us to.
yeah,
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
yeah,
I don't think many young Christian men are getting that kind of reality handed to them. Like, hey, look, this is possible.
yeah.
It has happened. So, anyways, let's go on to point number 2
Sure.
on here. I'd love to make it through all of these. What is one decision that you've made that has had a positive impact on your life?
Yeah. Well, listen, I know this is it's 2717. The words underneath 2717 on our logo is Jesus, prosperity, and life. Okay. So the example I'm going to use for this is a life example. It's not a business example. My wife Pam and I met 23 years ago, and we married shortly after that. We had both been married previous, and but marriage, the covenant relationship of marriage, marriage being a one-time event, was both very important to us, and unfortunately, it didn't work out that way in our first marriages. But we both were committed to doing marriage God's way, and that means we're going to get married one more time, and that's it. So there's a biblical principle about marriage called the law of priority, and we both knew it. If you've never read Jimmy Evans' book, Marriage on the Rock, it's a wonderful book. It'll help you understand the biblical role of marriage, of men and women, and how it works. But the law of priority is out of Genesis 2:25 that says, a man shall leave his mother and father and will cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one. And so this cleaving process that is in Genesis 2:25 deals with priority. And prior to marriage, your relationship with your parents, for most of us, are the most important relationship you have.
Right.
Well, that changes when you become married. And so when you're dealing in a blended family, it has its own different nuances, and it sounds like you came out of the same situation.
Yes.
Okay. So you can relate to some of the things I want to talk about. Well, we were married. It was early on in the marriage, and we were having a pretty big challenge. And the challenge was, in our home, we had 3 girls and 1 boy. 2 of the girls lived with us full time, and a son and a daughter did the weekends and the Wednesday nights and that kind of thing, the back and forth deal.
Right.
So, in my mind of right, wrong, should and shouldn't, when the daughter and the son that were visiting came, the son would have, because we didn't have an unlimited bedroom home, we had limited bedrooms.
Right.
So the daughter that was going to come stay for the weekend or a Wednesday night would stay with one of the other daughters of the home, and the son would have a bedroom to himself. He was one of the older ones. And in my mind, it just made perfect sense.
Right. Yeah.
And Pam didn't see it that way. She said, no. The girls living in the home should get preference. They're here full time. They shouldn't be made to share rooms and all that. As simple as this sound, we were at a pretty big crossroads. And so the only thing we could agree on at that moment was to trust an elder and a pastor at our church, Garvin McCarroll. And so we made an appointment to see Garvin, and we sat down with him. And you know, he looked at me in the eyes and he said, "I got a question for you." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Are you committed to doing this God's way?" I said, 100%. And he said, "Are you committed to your marriage?" I said, 100%. He said, "Okay, very good." Because he'd already heard our explanations, both sides of it.
Right.
And by the way, I was 100% convinced I was right. So, well, you know how this is going to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Garvin said, "Merritt, you're wrong and Pam's right."
Mm.
Well, Garvin was the authority in my life. I was submitted to Garvin. I knew Ephesians 5. A husband is to die to his wife as Christ died to the church, which means Christ gave his life. He gave everything. I mean, I knew all the scriptures.
Right.
Now I was at the crossroads. And what I honestly, with all my heart, felt like I was sacrificing my son, that I was betraying my son, that everything that I believed to be right, for all the right reasons, and I believed it with all my heart. And I was at a crossroads. Am I going to do it God's way? Or am I going to take the offense? You know, I felt like Abraham and Isaac, right?
Yeah.
Taking Isaac up on the hill,
Yeah.
you know, and not that extreme. Thank God, you know, I wasn't
Right.
called to take my son's life, but it was emotionally, it felt like that.
Yeah.
So it took me a couple of days to process it. I wish I could say I just immediately submitted, but
Right.
I took a couple of days to process. And I told Pam, I said, "I'm on board. Merritt will share a room with his sister when he's here, and the girls will have their own rooms and they won't be asked to share the room." And I did not trust the decision, I trusted God.
That's good.
I still believed that the decision was flawed, but I knew I was honoring God and honoring His Word and honoring the law of priority in my marriage. Because see, it's God first, your marriage second, then your children,
Yeah.
then your family, then your business, your friendships, your church, however that comes afterwards.
Right.
And so here's what happened after that. My wife, with no leading on my part, a couple down the road, which you know, lived 2 houses down, we're doing a big remodel project at their house. She stopped by just to say hi, and we went to church with them.
Yeah.
And they said, "Yeah, come look what we're doing. There's a lot of attic space in our house, and we're finishing it out, and we're making a bedroom for one of our kids." So Pam goes up and looks at it, and she goes, "Their house is basically like our house. I bet we have the same attic space in our house."
Yeah.
So she never asked. She didn't even tell me. She had that contractor come over to our house. He said, "Yeah, you actually have more room."
Wow.
He said, "I can build a bedroom, a living room, and a full bathroom."
Wow.
So the way the story ends, and I believe because I trusted God, and instead of, you know, making whatever crazy decision I might have made out of, you know, justice for my son,
Right.
and trusting God with the process, the end result was that same boy I was worried about having to share a bedroom got his own bedroom, his own living room, and his own bathroom.
Wow.
And that boy loves, even though Pam is not his biological mom, loves her with all of his heart. But see, God can and will redeem all of that. The decision, because that's what this podcast is about, is making decisions. In that moment, did I trust God, or was I going to take up the offense for my son? And I'll just tell you, those are hard decisions to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
But see, I made the decision before. And Garvin, I'm so glad he asked me, do you trust God? Or are you going to follow his word? Right? Are you committed to your marriage? And because I was. But I had to walk that out. And I have never followed God's word and been faithful to what he's asked me to do, even when the circumstances seem like maybe there was a better way to do it, or a more right way, I put that in quotation marks, to do it. That, man, when I look back, I'm going, wow, God, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like the Lord totally used that decision that you made to solidify his relationship with his stepmother, advance him.
Yeah.
It built trust between you and your wife.
Yep.
And everyone in the house felt safe, secure, prioritized.
Yep.
You know, and if you almost, it makes me think if you weren't to have taken that advice from Garvin,
right,
none of that would have happened.
Nope.
How would the dynamics be in the home after that?
Yep.
You know, how would there'd be a lack of trust, there'd be an overruling, a dominating figure in the home.
Yep.
Kind of thing, you know. The whole story would have just taken a huge left turn.
Yep.
You know, God.
And you think about it, Talon, as we sit down with our adult children now, because every one of these children now are married. Everybody but our son Merritt has children, and we sit around when we're on have family time together, and we talk about these old stories.
Yeah.
But Pam and I can point to and say, if you kids remember what was going on, because they were young.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of remind them and kind of go through the stories. But we stood on God's word. We were faithful to God's word, and he showed up and he redeemed it. And what was the result was so far better than anything we could have imagined.
Yeah.
Because we made the decision to trust the Lord.
Yeah.
And trust the process.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, you see people that, I mean, I've seen couples get divorced over things like that. And I've seen, you know, families get wrecked. And to your point, you know, if the legacy moving forward is, we'll trust God, but not if you're messing with one of my kids.
Right.
We'll trust God, but, you know, I just had lunch with a guy, and he used to be a youth pastor. First time in his life, he's tithing for 3 weeks in a row.
Wow.
And, you know, but that's not that unusual of a story. I'll trust God with everything, but
Don't
you know,
touch my money.
These were even his words. He said, you know, I just figured God understood. We were pretty tight with money. Well, God is compassionate.
Yeah.
But, you know, the tithe is returning it back to him.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, trust God.
Yeah.
If you make a decision today to trust God with everything, and not in a legalistic way, but as best you can, as faithfully as you possibly can, to just follow what he's called you to do. And if you're confused, get wise counsel, get pastors, get people involved in your life, get elders, and help them, let them help you unpack that so that you continue down. And sometimes it's that question, right? Well, maybe you're not asking the right question, or let's look at this a little bit different way.
Right.
One of my mentors that, gave me an illustration a couple, 2 or 3 years back that was mind-boggling, but it was spot on. And it was a complete 180 from how I was looking at the situation. As soon as he showed it to me in a different perspective, I was like, I don't know how I didn't see that.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know why I was struggling with that, because it seemed so obvious, but that's usually what a mentor does. Is
Right.
They help you see the obvious. can't see it for whatever reason.
Right.
And then once I see the obvious, once I see the truth, well, the decisions become right.
Yeah.
You know the decisions that need to be made. You know, as we wrap up this call, there's a lot of great things that we covered, but maybe I'll run through just a few of them. To make the decisions that are going to lead you down the path that you want to go, faith is going to be required. Now, you got to choose what you believe, right? I believe that Jesus is the way. You have to decide that for yourself. You're going to need to gather information to make great decisions. You need to seek wise counsel. You're going to have to count the cost. You're going to have to examine your priorities. You need to pray. In my opinion, you sure need to pray. Always make sure Pam is in agreement before I move forward. I wait on God's peace. Peace does not mean that all fear is gone. Peace means that I just know, I feel God's peace. God's in it. And look, when God's in it, the evidence of his hand is all in it. Like there's no denying it, right? You'll know when God's in it. And if you're struggling with what I'm telling you, reach out to somebody, the pastor, somebody, and he can help walk you through this. But remember, when you make that decision, God said yes. Your wife is on the same page, your husband, it's all lined up. Move now, okay? Don't sit on it, don't procrastinate, and don't look back, right? Don't look back, move forward. Most of us are an important or pivotal decision away from the blessing, the opportunity, the thing that God's put on your heart. So I hope today has helped you. I hope today, hope that my buddy Tal and I hope we've shared some stories with you that help you along the way. But making faithful decisions, always doing it, I believe with the faith of Jesus guiding you along the way. It's just a big part of living the life that God's called you to live, and really living the abundant, blessed life that we all want to live. So, hey, that's it. Again, thank you for tuning in to 2717. We look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.